1,900 families who are part of that school family, in addition to staff and people who work inside the school. So a huge umbrella of people wanting information, but a very slow trickle of confirmed information coming out from those in charge at this point.
Yeah, we are just waiting for more word to come in. But the one thing that we can confirm that we saw as soon as we came on air, that one person was taken away and was life flighted to a local hospital away from the scene. We only saw one medical helicopter leave, so we can only confirm just that one person has been taken away at this time, as the situation has escalated a little bit more about 45 minutes outside of Atlanta, knowing that we now have state, local, and federal authorities, FBI Atlanta, telling us they are aware of the situation and they have dispatched sources and resources here to help with this scenario. The good news, again, it's not such a hard lockdown to where your parents cannot get to the students. We see the line of cars. It sort of seems like it's thinning out here a little bit. I'm not sure if it was just the students more spread out, but it seems like that crowd has died down a little bit, as well as more parents are able to get to the students as they come in. And so here is this information, this coming in right now. Listen to this closely. This information coming. We have our Eliza Lucas on the sidelines giving us information. This one from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office. They've just released this shooting at Appalachia High School. I'm going to read this press release word for word. It says authorities are currently on the scene of a school shooting at Appalachia High School on Heyman Morris Road at approximately 10:23 a.m. Officers from multiple law enforcement agencies, fire and EMS personnel were dispatched to the high school in reference to a reported active shooting. At the time of this release, one suspect is in custody. I want to repeat, one suspect is in custody. Casualties have been reported. However, details on the number or their condition is not available at this time. This is an ongoing situation. Updates will be released when available. Again, Cheryl, they report to us that this happened around 10:23 a.m. Police, fire and rescue responded to the school. Reports of an active shooting. At the time of this release that came out to us, one suspect is in custody. Casualties have been reported. However, details on the number or their conditions is not available at this time.
It really stands out to me that casualties is plural.
Yes.
I think that stands out to me as new information, because up to this point, we just knew about the helicopter, the medical helicopter, and the one person we could confirm visually seeing on a stretcher being taken to that helicopter. Now we see the word casualties in this official release from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office, and that they can't really give us specifics on how many people might be impacted in terms of any kind of injury or the level of the injury of those persons. Again, one medical helicopter is what we can confirm. We have seen all of these, and you can see them in your screen right now, so many ambulances that are parked there. Aisha and I can confirm in the time that we've been on the air with you, continuous breaking news coverage in the last 50 minutes or so, we've not seen an ambulance leave the school with lights and sirens on in the time we've been there in our perspective from SkyTracker, but we don't know, based on that new release, how many people perhaps may have been hurt in what they're describing as a reported active shooting. Again, as Aisha was reading, at 10:23 this morning, so coming up on more than 90 minutes ago.
And the fact that, Cheryl, you mentioned it, that the word casualties is plural, we are still waiting to get information on any sort of update with conditions or the number of people that could be involved here. This is just sort of heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
When, we told you guys that these updates were going to come along as you were watching with us. And that is just heartbreaking to hear that this word is even being used here. And just thinking of all the families impacted, all of the families trying to make it to their children, just not knowing what condition your child is in, where they are, and how soon you can get to them. This is absolutely heartbreaking here coming out of Barrow County.
Yeah, I'm just watching these kids, and they're kids. They're high school kids. You're talking about 14 to maybe 18-year-olds. and they're just kind of meandering around the school. You've got to imagine many of them are just trying to process what's happened in the last hour and a half as they're just going about their business on a school day. Hadn't even hit the lunch hour yet, just maybe morning classes, and then this happens. That's the most significant amount of new information we've gotten in the last 90 minutes. Worth repeating from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office that they do say they have a suspect in custody. After what they say, the headline of their press release reads, "Shooting at Appalachia High School, suspect in custody." About 15 minutes ago, we saw a number of police officers jump into cars and take off at a pretty high rate of speed off the school grounds there. We were wondering if they had gotten new information and could be pursuing another lead. But again, what we can confirm is they have one suspect in custody. We don't know if they're looking for anyone else. If you're just joining us, just to reset, this is Appalachia High School in Winder, about 40 miles northeast of the city limits here in Atlanta. It's right off US Highway 29, University Parkway. It's a school of about 1,900 students. You see the Wildcats there on the football season. It is football season there, but the students on the track for a tragic reason today, being evacuated from their school after reports of shots fired, a shooting inside their school. They go into a hard lockdown protocol. They know the drill. They have practiced for this kind of a moment that you hope never happens at a school, but when it does, this is what happens. They get the kids out of the school. They get them to a safe location. As parents have been waiting on the streets outside and around the high school, parents have the green light to come. We know for some that's not as easy as it sounds. Maybe they got the call at work trying to figure out the logistics to getting to the kids, getting eyes on the kids, wrapping them up. We have seen a couple of reunions from the perspective of SkyTracker. And boy, as a mom, when you see that moment and they just put their arms around their child, it just chokes you up, because you know the worry that happens when you get those texts or the calls that something has happened at your school. And I think we are all just pausing now to think about, to send love and strength to the families involved, particularly ones who are getting the call that perhaps somebody's been hurt. Because again, from the official press release from the sheriff's office, they're talking about details on the number of casualties, plural, that have been reported. No details on the number or condition available at this time. I know that they know how much people are waiting for that information. It's just not information they're able to give. As soon as they share it, you will be the first to know.
Yeah, in the Winder community, about 18,000 people, this school with 1,900 kids. And so, you know, it is a situation where it is a small, tight-knit community, as we see the response and just how fast those, you know, parents got on the scene here to respond.
New information right now from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. I'm reading it verbatim here for you, reading it together with you. GBI has responded to a shooting at Appalachia High School. We have agents on site assisting local, state, and federal law enforcement with the investigation. One suspect is in custody. We urge anyone near the area to stay clear while authorities investigate. More info to follow. Again, that is coming just a moment ago from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation.
Just kind of recapping now, it was about 10:23 when the call came in here on the campus at Appalachia High School of reports of shots fired here. The Barrow County Sheriff's Office just sent out a press release here within the last 5 minutes, letting us know that they responded to the school on Heyman Morris Road just after 10:20 this morning. All sorts of emergency response crews with these reports of this active shooting. At the time when they sent this release, within the last 10 minutes, they told us that one suspect is in custody. Casualties, unfortunately, plural, have been reported. However, the details on the number or their conditions is not available at this time. when we were on air, we only did see one of those emergency medical vehicles emergency helicopter leave from the scene. But again, that was once our chopper got there. So not sure what took place before we even got to the scene. So it seems like it could have been more expansive before we made it there, knowing that this is being reported as possible casualties, plural.
No doubt. And just by the sheer number of law enforcement cars that we see still on the scene more than an hour and a half later, and all the ambulances still there as well, it just speaks to how quickly and how big that response was. In case you're just joining us, I do want to read the latest statement from Governor Brian Kemp. Quote, "I have directed all available state resources to respond to the incident at Appalachia High School and urge all Georgians to join my family in praying for the safety of those in our classrooms, both in Barrow County and across our state."
Governor Kemp was the first to tell us that all of these resources have been dispatched. Now we see the students, it looks like they're exiting the stadium area. They're sort of lined up at the gates now. Initially, they were all pretty much in the stands there inside the stadium, but we see these students sort of bordering the gate that leads to the parking lot right outside of the football field.
Yeah. And Aisha and I have just been, as we've just been watching this unfold in real time with all of you at home, you just notice the little nuances, right? Just the body language of the law enforcement, of the students, you know, a chopper here overhead. I'm trying to lean in to read the side of that chopper. From what agency that might be. If anyone can see that more clearly and let me know, certainly tell me. But another helicopter coming into scene right now as we're watching this together. This is live from our view from our sky tracker, who's been over the scene about an hour and a half right now, giving us this perspective as this investigation unfolds. There's so many layers to this happening right now. As Aisha was saying, as students are being directed to where they can be, we have both been so impressed by the way the students are handling what is such a scary situation unfolding around them on what was just a normal Wednesday morning until this happened. A helicopter landing here on the grounds of Appalachia High School in Winder as we speak. Law enforcement still there, and it's a coordinated effort right now from local, state, and federal law enforcement, both on the scene here and as this investigation moves forward.
And so this is, again, as Cheryl mentioned, the second helicopter that we're seeing. Initially, we saw that first helicopter as soon as we came on air, and that sort of puts into perspective now that we've been told there is a possibility of multiple casualties that are here on this scene of Appalachia High School. While we haven't been given an update from the sheriff's office on what are the conditions of the people who were possibly in harm's way inside the school, we can report that another medical helicopter has landed there on the grounds. The good news here, if we can pull anything out from it, is that one suspect is in custody. So with that, it appears that the danger is over, and now we are in response mode, trying to see the conditions of the people who possibly need medical help. The time now is 12:13. Let's walk it back. That first call came in at 10:23. So we're coming up on 2 hours of this situation as parents, hearts are pounding, trying to figure out, is my child safe? That is the number one priority right now. We see one big group of students in the stadium, and it seems like they're forming a line, Cheryl. As we know, they've been given the all clear to be released now to their parents.
And as you were saying, I think it's so important what you're pointing out here, Aisha, is like pulling the parts that are encouraging and maybe messaging that things are moving forward in terms of, one, the information we're getting that there is a suspect in custody. And then we've talked about at length now just what it means when there is that all clear for people to come onto campus and for these students to be able to leave campus. Now, we've been watching as that's been unfolding here for an hour or more. That is a long and tedious process.
Yeah.
One, because you see in the distance on the top of your screen up there, all of the cars kind of waiting to get in to the school campus. We saw some parents just get out of the car, walk across the field. They're not going to wait to be able to drive up. They just want to go see the kids. But you see by the number of students still there on the field, this is taking some time. But we're talking about a school of 1,900 students, and then you add all the staff to that. This is a massive response on so many different levels.
And then we also want to bring you back to, and within the last 15 minutes, we saw a group of emergency vehicles peel off from the scene and go in a different direction. So we're also trying to work to see where they were headed, if there is a different part here. You guys are watching this live with us. We're getting this information and bringing it straight to you as it comes in. We're kind of leaned over here on the scene because Chopper is trying to zoom in to give us more of a view to see what's happening there on the ground, because we still don't know what phase we're in, right? So we know the one suspect is in custody, but who's still inside the school? What's the level of the injuries here? How many casualties? So many questions still need answers. But regardless of what those answers are, this is a gut-wrenching, heart-pounding situation here. As we're talking about students, we're a month into the new school year already? I just looked up some stats online. 35 school shootings reported in the U.S. already here as of July in 2024. Some of these kids have been practicing how to stay safe from a school shooter since they were in kindergarten. And now their time has come to where they've had to put these things into practice. You never want to think about it, but here we are. You know, it's interesting as parents, maybe because, you know, we grew up perhaps at a time that it wasn't as prevalent. Yeah. You know, it kind of breaks my heart. I remember hearing one of my kids say basically not if but when kind of a mentality, just sort of factually saying that because they have been practicing since they were in kindergarten, sort of the response to whatever might happen at a school. And while you're so glad that there are procedures in place to be able to respond in the most effective and efficient and in the way to keep as many people safe, you hate the idea that it's even necessary. We're just hearing from producers in the booth right now feeding us this information. NBC News are reporting 2 dead and 4 injured. Again, this information coming in just now. NBC News reporting 2 dead at Appalachia High School, 4 injured. So this information coming just to us right now, because remember when the sheriff's department sent their press release, they said casualties, plural, but not knowing what the conditions were or how many. So we can put a number on that, confirmed through NBC News. Cheryl. I just have to take a deep breath with you. That is devastating, important, but tough information for our entire community and for our country. Right. We have, multiple people inside this building. You have students, you have staff members, you have, emergency personnel, coaches. This is a high school here of about 1,900 students, 2 high schools in the district. This is Appalachia. 10:23 this morning. The call goes out to police department. Reports of shots fired here on this campus. Multiple agencies respond, spring into action, get all of these kids out of the school, hard lockdown. We just understand that 11 lives, Molly Oak on the ground floor. She's finally made it through all of the law enforcement. Going now to Molly, going to take away from Chopper, guys. If we can keep Chopper in boxes, if possible, that would be great. As we get to Molly, we're going to try to bring that back up. Molly, what can you tell us?
Well, guys, I know you've been seeing the just mass amount of law enforcement that's on scene here at the high school. And I want to say the only thing that rivals the amount of law enforcement is the amount of parents we have seen trying to get as close as possible to the school. I do want to step aside so you can see, because all down this road, aside from the parents walking, we just see blue lights flashing. We were on scene when we watched that helicopter land in the middle of the parking lot. As we were waiting to come to you, I've also been talking with parents as they're making their way closer to the school. They've been telling me that their kids have been moved to the football field for safety as they wait for parent pickup. I talked with one dad. He said when he got the text, he honestly couldn't even believe it was real. He didn't want to believe it was real until his son told him, no, Dad, I'm not kidding. There's somebody shooting inside this school. So as we're working to get more details, I also just got this confirmed from the GBI that they are also responding, joining the mass amount of law enforcement here. They did confirm that there was a shooting here at Appalachia High School in Bartow County. They said they have agents here on site helping out with local, state, and federal law enforcement with the investigation. They're also telling us that one suspect is in custody. They're asking anyone in the area that doesn't absolutely need to be here to stay clear while this investigation continues. Now, I also see multiple helicopters up in the sky. I know one of those is ours for you all to give you a better sight, but we cannot express just how many law enforcement are on. I mean, dozens and dozens, and we've got a Jackson County ambulance that just drove by us. You heard those sirens going. Even when my photographer and I were trying to get down here, we watched as about a dozen or so police sheriff, etc., continue to blow past us on different routes, all trying to get to the high school. So right now, this place is locked down. Again, that was after students had a hard lockdown earlier this morning after reports of a shooting. That's now been confirmed as law enforcement continues to investigate. Guys, we're going to work to find out some more details and talk with parents out here as we send it back to you in the studio.
And Molly, as you were sharing your report, which is such a helpful perspective there on the ground, we can confirm Grady Hospital, the hospital we've been talking about as being one of the level 1 trauma centers, meaning they get the most serious cases. They have the wherewithal and the expertise to handle the most serious cases. We can confirm Grady Hospital has 1 of the 4 injured, as reported by NBC News. Again, 4 injured, 2 dead. We can confirm Grady Hospital has 1 of the injured.
We just hate to report that this is a scenario here as these parents try to make it to their kids. We could even see in the background there with Molly just how long that line is of those parents trying to arrive at the scene. But we just kind of want to think and even send our prayers to these families who maybe haven't heard from their child. They can't get through. We don't know how good or bad cell service is right now. The situation has been going on coming up on 2 hours. It is 12:21. That first call came in at 10:23 this morning of someone shooting in that school. 1 suspect is in custody, but we have confirmed through NBC News that 2 people are dead and 4 are injured at this hour. This situation has definitely escalated here as more information comes in. We've been here with you since we came on air at 11 and got our chopper here on the scene. So that's what I'm saying. We don't know what happened before Chopper got there. Clearly, this was intense. We see those students now on the football field. It seems like as the parents show up, that crowd on the football field is starting to thin out a little bit. But think about it. Beginning of the school year, football field is your favorite place.
Right. Friday Night Lights.
And now that's going to be in the bucket with this is where I went when tragedy struck.
You know? Exactly. And, I was thinking as you were talking, Aisha, just looking at all those kids on the field, now we know that 4 are injured and 2 are dead, but every single person on that field and every single person who loves them is impacted by this and affected and injured in some way.
Yeah. And even if you don't know anybody in Winder, Georgia, you may not even know where Winder is. Cheryl and I are sitting here bringing you this story while our kids are in school. Your heart just goes out to this entire community because you send those babies out that door and on that bus thinking that they're going to come home. And it is just not a guarantee. We have at least 2 families who will not see their loved ones tonight and 4 other families who may only see their loved ones in a hospital bed. The sheriff's department said they are working to confirm the extent of those injuries. We know 1 patient has been transported to Grady. One of our producers from home even told us that there is another level 1 trauma center in Northeast Georgia there in Gainesville. So the medical response is indeed at the peak of the situation. As we know, 4 people are being treated for their injuries. Sadly, tragically, 2 people are dead right now.
And we know that 1 of the injured has been taken to Grady Hospital. Grady confirming they've received 1 gunshot wound victim from Appalachia High School in Barrow County. We have a new statement to share from the Speaker of the House of Representatives, John Burns. He writes, "We're praying for the safety of the students, faculty, and staff at Appalachia High School and the law enforcement officers who are responding to the scene." Again, we can confirm through the governor and the FBI that local, state, and federal law enforcement are all on the scene at the high school you're looking at right now, all working together in a coordinated effort into what is now an investigation part of this response. We can confirm again, if you're just joining us, there is 1 suspect in custody. 1 suspect in custody. We have not gotten information on whether they think anyone else might be involved, but again, 1 person in custody.
And we continue to work here in the newsroom, seeing what information we can gather. We have reporters in the newsroom, our assignment managers trying to filter through all the information they can. And it's important for us to really be the eyes and ears of the community, because in the age of social media, so much information is going out. I did a little sweep through X, a sweep through TikTok, and people are, sharing the information, but we want to make sure that we bring you that information as it comes in the most accurate fashion possible. And with that, we can recount here, Appalachia High School, a call went out from the school 10:23 this morning of someone shooting. There was a shots fired call. Local law enforcement responded. When they got there, they encountered this situation. In the end, we can tell you that school was put on a hard lockdown. The students were taken out to the football field as the situation was investigated. 2 people are dead, 4 people are injured. On air, we've seen at least 2 medical helicopters leave away from this scene. Grady has 1 patient they have confirmed. 4 people are injured and 2 people are dead. As we look at this view from above of all of these students, a school of 1,900 students here. We don't want to zoom in too far, but we see another person being taken away from the scene on a stretcher. Not sure the extent, but you got to keep in mind here, they're outside. It's about 75 or so degrees right now. People may be having some sort of anxiety attack. We just don't know what's happening as we see this person being loaded onto an ambulance right now. This is stressful.
Yeah.
This is heart pounding.
Yeah.
You don't know if your life is still in danger. You're a child and you just encountered a shooting. We don't know what these kids saw.
No doubt.
We don't know what they heard. And so we might see more medical responses just in the aftermath here.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, because I was thinking about, as we're learning new information, so are they.
Yeah.
And they're learning information about people that they know and care about. And even as it's just sinking in what's unfolded, we see another stretcher coming out. So there is that kind of initial response, and then it is like caring for all of these students, staff, on a lot of different levels. As this doesn't end today, on in many ways in terms of investigation, but what a day like this, it sticks with you, it sticks with their loved ones, and it sticks with the community.
Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger just posting on X, praying for the students and staff of Appalachia High School today and the families of the victims. I'm thankful for our first responders and law enforcement personnel who risk their lives every day protecting Georgians. Please join me in prayer for the Appalachia High School community. Again, that's coming from Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. We are getting response of prayers coming from our elected officials as they are all in the loop. Governor Brian Kemp saying that he has also dispatched an endless amount of resources here to this area, as they have also enlisted the help of the FBI here, as one suspect has been taken into custody. The latest information coming out, confirmed by NBC News, that 2 people are dead and 4 people have been injured. We know Grady Hospital here in Atlanta, a level 1 trauma center that takes the most serious of patients, has received at least 1 victim here in this case.
This is a school of 1,900 students, and we just keep going back to just how widespread this impact is for every single person inside that school and every person who knows them. But all of us here watching this together, these are the moments we go through as a community together and change as a community forever as a result. You said it a few minutes ago, Aisha, and I just, felt that kind of pit in your stomach when you said there are 2 families tonight that will not see their loved ones.
I was just about to say, Cheryl, my stomach is in knots. I mean, this situation just sort of just rips your heart out to know it, when you send your kids to school, this is just not what you expect. And imagine the parents that can't get to their kids right now. The mom or dad who's traveling, they're not in town. The kids with the grandparents. You just don't know. When we see a school of 1,900 kids, how many kids are on that football field?
Right.
Can you think of all the different stories that are playing out? for each of their families. What's the scenario? What about the kid who doesn't have anyone to call? You know what I mean? There are so many stories within this story.
Yeah, and I'm seeing some conversations online about spouses of teachers inside the school trying to reach loved ones who work in the school, whether they work in the cafeteria or in the classroom, whatever those positions. That's an entire school family and anyone connected to it, trying to get that information. More and more information coming out. Again, that one suspect in custody. We're waiting to hear if there might be more to that, if there is an attempt to find anyone else. We did see a while ago officers with some urgency getting into cars and speeding off from the school. It looked like maybe they had gotten some information and were headed that way. That's information that we've not been able to confirm or that police are not willing to talk about now. But we have heard from so many different entities, whether it be the FBI, the Speaker of the House, the Governor Kemp, all talking about this coordinated investigative effort at this point, from the FBI down to local police in Winder, as this investigation moves forward. Meanwhile, confirmation from Grady Hospital, a level 1 trauma center in Atlanta, that it does have one gunshot wound that they are actively treating right now. Again, NBC confirming 4 injured in this shooting at Appalachia High School in Barrow County in Winder, and 2 people have died.
Just kind of setting the scene for you here as we see just this real focus here on the football field area. This is a safe haven right now. This is where those students are safe. But in the last 5 minutes, we just saw someone taken out on a stretcher. Even if you perceive the threat to be over, we have 1 suspect in custody. Think about what these are children, what they just experienced, what they just saw. This is a life-altering experience to hear the sound of gunshots in your school, a part of your school day. That call came in at 10:23 this morning, probably right before the first lunch period there. High school students eat a little bit earlier. And so they're just going on about their day. And all of a sudden, this level of chaos and tragedy enters your life in the most unexpected, life-altering fashion. This is a story that we will be talking about for days and weeks to come as we get more information about exactly what happened here. Who is this one suspect? Who are the victims? Who are their families? And even the people that will, continue to battle their injuries for the duration of this period here. So this has just been such a tough situation for us to walk through with you here live, as we navigate this. And so the good news here is that there is also a level 1 trauma center there in Gainesville, but Savannah Levins, and shout out to our team who some of them are not even on the clock. And they're just trying to help us get all this information. So we know Grady and then Northeast Georgia Medical Center, both level 1 trauma centers. Those are going to be your closest to this scene, but still, they're both about an hour away from this school.
Which explains why a medical helicopter is critical in a situation like this. And we saw that in real time. We saw someone on a stretcher being put into the helicopter. We saw that helicopter taking off from that center flagpole at the high school. And that is the fastest way to get them to the best care, but the best care is an hour from the high school, which is why the helicopter gets them there fastest so that they can get the best care as quickly as they possibly can. Again, that being one of the 4 injured we can confirm in this shooting at Appalachia High School.
Yeah, we see the students here still on the football field area. This is going to be a mass effort is the best way that I can sort of categorize it, given the scenario of how many students we have here at this school, just the effort to get them to their families, the traffic situation that's outside of the school as all of those cars are lined up. So this is going to be unfolding for quite some time here. And that's why we are sticking here with you, because as soon as that information comes in, we'll get it to you. So Savannah Levins is looking at sort of the proximity of where these hospitals and level 1 trauma centers are. As we now know, 2 people are dead and 4 injured.
So from the high school to Northeast Georgia Medical Center is about 31 miles, 45 miles to Grady Memorial. So kind of similar in proximity. Grady Memorial certainly known around the region for its level 1 care, but 2 level 1 hospitals within similar proximity to the high school. Again, we know 4 injured, and we've just had the confirmation of 1 at Grady. So we don't know for certain where those other 3 injured have been taken, if all 3 are indeed in the hospital as we speak.
Yeah, and still waiting to know the extent of those injuries.
Right.
The Sheriff's Department released that information from Barrow County saying, you know, we don't know how many people or the extent of the injuries. The confirmation of the numbers, that's coming from NBC News of the 2 dead and the 4 injured. So the Sheriff's Department still hasn't sent out any further information about what's the extent of all of this. But again, we can report 1 suspect is in custody here.
At this point, the only confirmation we have gotten from the Barrow County Sheriff's Office was that initial release. And if you're just joining it, let me read it with you again. This is the one piece of confirmed information that is coming directly from the Sheriff's Office. Reading approximately 10:23 a.m., officers from multiple law enforcement agencies and fire personnel dispatched to the high school in reference to a reported active shooting. At the time of the release, the suspect is in custody. Casualties, plural, have been reported. However, details on the number and their conditions not available. Since then, NBC News has reported 4 injured and 2 people have died. The Sheriff's Office saying it's an ongoing situation. Updates will be released. And again, we've heard from the governor and the FBI that federal law enforcement on scene here helping with the massive response that we see here live from our helicopter and our ground crew, Molly Oak, all live on the scene. This is that on-ground perspective. You just see the massive number of cars, all the students, all the faculty and staff that are there at the school, fire trucks and ambulances in the distance. These are the scenes that make your heart sink when you see, and it's playing out in real time here in our community.
So now we're sort of switching to our ground shot from our crews that we have there. This is that line of parents that are outside the school. We're trying to wait to see if we can get our helicopter shot back. They've been out there for more than an hour, so they're going to regroup and we're going to try to come back to that. And so we're just kind of walking you through this scenario as we still see multiple emergency medical vehicles there on the scene. And that is because even as this is all unfolding, within the last 10 minutes, we saw someone being taken away on a chopper, presumably not connected to the shooting because that was all secure. This was in the football field area, which was in the safety zone per se, right? And that person was taken away. You have to think there is stress out there. There is anxiety out there. There is so much fear that is pumping through these students as they wait to be reunited with their families. This is some video that we're running back that we got from the chopper, just showing where the students were taken to safety there in the football field area.
That's a really important shot and good perspective because one, you see just how many students we're talking about, a school of 1,900 filling the bleachers there, filling the football stadium area. That shot right there is sort of what's become sort of the command center. We saw that mobile command unit that was there, and also that's where the medical helicopter we've been talking about. This was about 11:20 this morning where this life flight helicopter was taking off. We saw one person on a stretcher being carried into that helicopter, and we watched together live as it made its way to a hospital. Again, we can confirm 1 of the 4 injured. NBC reporting that there are 4 injured. 1 of the 4, Grady Hospital, has confirmed they have a gunshot wound there and are treating that person. We don't know the ages. I think that's also very important here. We don't know the ages of the people involved. Again, NBC reporting 4 injured, 2 people have died, but we don't know the ages of any of the people involved. We know there are about 1,900 students, and we know it was a full day with entire staff in the school as well. So we are waiting to hear about that as well, as you get that overview of what's been happening now for more than 2 hours at Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia.
Our 11 Alive's Molly Oak has been working on the ground here, trying to give us more information. Liza Luke is handing me information from the side. And so even the White House press office has sent out this release saying President Biden has been briefed by his Homeland Security advisor, Liz Sherwood Randall, on the tragic shooting at Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia. And his administration will continue coordinating with federal, state, and local officials as we receive more information. Producers, can you tell us if Molly has those interviews? Are those ready? Molly Oak is on the ground talking to people out there as mostly parents are responding, trying to reconnect and reunite with their children. President Joe Biden just releasing information saying that he has been briefed on the situation along with Governor Brian Kemp, also saying that he has indeed sent out even federal authorities here to join in on this investigation here.
And the entire community sending our strength and support as this is all playing out, as we watch it together in real time. Molly Oak is live on the ground talking to people impacted there. Molly, I understand you've talked to some loved ones of the students there as they're waiting to reunite and learn more about what's happened inside the school during the shooting.
Yeah, Cheryl and Aisha, I'm going to stay off camera just so you can get this view of all of the law enforcement that's still here. You know, earlier when I spoke with you all, I told you the only thing that may rival the amount of law enforcement on scene is the amount of loved ones. That's who we've been talking to. I talked with one man who said he couldn't even believe it was real when he got the text from his son. And I just spoke with a grandmother. Here is what she told me.
I feel really sorry for the kids that they've had to experience this, and the parents who got those phone calls that it was their child. He was with the principal, and the principal told him, run to the band room, don't look back, just keep running. So that's all I know.
I'm so happy he's okay. And you said your daughter is with him now?
Yes, his mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sigh of relief. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
You guys could see it because she had sunglasses on, but from standing just about a foot away from her, I could watch her as she was choking back tears the entire time she was speaking with me. I mean, she talked about also getting the call from her grandson's mother when she was at work saying, there's a shooting at the high school, you need to go now. And she said she immediately just got up, told the front desk, I'm out of here, and then drove here as fast as she physically could. Now, happy to say that her grandson is okay. He's a senior here at the high school. He is with his mom now, she says, but you heard her just harrowing account of what he experienced inside the school. And I'm going to join her in just of our thoughts and prayers for all the kids, students, staff, faculty and staff that are inside that school, all the loved ones that are out here. It's hard to even talk to people right now, guys. I was shaking listening to her story. I've been shaking listening to other people's stories of when they got those texts or phone calls. So our hearts go out to all of them as this investigation continues. Back to you all.
So, Molly, tell us about these cars that are lining the street. Are they able to maneuver, or does it appear that everyone has sort of just gotten out of the cars because they're kind of stuck there as they try to make their way to their kids?
This place is on the strictest form of lockdown that I have seen in a long time, guys. I mean, when you park your car, you are parking your car and getting out. And that's what a lot of these parents that I talked with as they're making their way through, they're just trying to get as close as physically possible to the school. So whether that means they are parking and just going. There was one guy who found a scooter. He grabbed that and started going. We've seen people getting on golf carts, just trying to get as close as physically possible to those kids that one parent told me earlier have been moved to the football field. The only cars that we are seeing coming in and out is law enforcement or ambulances. And then, of course, the helicopters in the sky moving above. But that's all, the only movement that we really see here is whether people are on foot walking to and from the school or You see sheriffs, you see law enforcement, you see ambulances. There's a golf cart that I was just mentioning. So people are definitely getting creative and trying to get as close as physically possible just to get their hands on their kids and feel that they are okay. Because I know it's a different thing for a parent to hear that a kid is okay than to physically be able to see and feel your kid and know that they are okay after something like this. So that's what these parents are trying to do. They are just trying to lay some eyes and hands on their kids to know that everyone is okay. As we see another ambulance cruise on by out here. Again, remember the GBI confirming to us that this is not just a local investigation at this point. This is local, state, and federal. And that's why you're seeing this mass amount of response here at the high school today, guys.
Yeah, Molly, I have to say, when you see an ambulance go by with lights on, it gives you pause.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, from NBC, we're reporting 4 injured and 2 have died. But Aisha brought up a good point. Just the trauma of the experience is something that may be affecting kids. So certainly, I know you're talking to people on the ground. Let us know if you hear any more information about, that ongoing response to help students and staff there on the ground, and this visual of parents just walking down the street. They're just leaving their cars, walking down the street. Molly, you're exactly right. It's one thing to hear that your loved one's okay. It's another to see them. And as people know, there are injured and 2 who have passed away. There are people who are scared and are not going to feel okay until they see someone standing in front of them.
And so again, we know Grady Memorial Level 1 Trauma Center in Atlanta, about an hour away from the school, they've reported receiving one of those victims. Let's get to 11 Alive's Erica Murphy there live from Grady Hospital, telling us what she is seeing there. Erica, what can you tell us?
Well, we know that we have had some shots fired at Appalachia High School in Winder this morning, and we know that several people were shot. And what we also know today is that Grady Memorial officials are confirming that at least one of the victims from that high school shooting has been brought here to Grady Memorial by medevac. Now, the suspect is in custody. We are learning that according to the sheriff's office in Barrow County. The details about exactly what happened here are still rolling in, but we do know that both the FBI are on the scene, GBI is on the scene, and Governor Kemp is sending all resources to help out with this situation. Now, we are continuing to check in with authorities so we can learn more about exactly how many victims there are, how many fatalities, how many injured. Of course, once we get those details, we will share them with you. Reporting from Grady Memorial Hospital, Erica Murphy, 11 Alive News.
Erica, thank you so much. We want to share a new information that we've just gotten from the mayor of Atlanta, Andre Dickens, who writes, I'm reading here with you as I'm going to read this together. Let me just find it here on the screen. My prayers are with the high school students, staff, and families affected by the senseless act of violence in Winder, Georgia. I have been in contact with the chief and the Atlanta Police Department. They've been working with the Atlanta Public Schools Police Department to bolster patrols around our schools for the rest of the day out of abundance of caution. APD has also been on standby in case law enforcement agencies need assistance with this incident. May God comfort the victims and their loved ones in the difficult days ahead. Again, that's coming just moments ago from Mayor Andre Dickens in the city of Atlanta.
And although we know that one suspect is in custody, it's interesting to hear that the mayor's initial response was to talk to APD and sort of bolster patrols around the schools here. Because what happens is the information spreads, right? And you don't want that fear and anxiety going throughout the district, throughout Metro Atlanta to these students as they know something has happened somewhere else. So just giving that sense of peace and calm to the students as they go about the rest of their school day. It's sort of hard to know that something like this has happened to your peers, whether you know them or not. You know what I mean? It just sort of gives that feeling of, if we see a heavier police presence around, we know that, you know, people are aware and people are efforting to keep us safe. Think about it. You're a child. Even though we're talking about a high school, kids have encountered one of the biggest tragedies they will probably ever encounter in their lifetime. We don't know what they heard, what they saw during this incident. The grandmother that Molly spoke to said her grandson, a senior there at Appalachia High School, was with the principal who said, run, don't turn back, run to the band room. Can you imagine just what's going to be going through his mind, if, you know, for months and years to come, just of this moment here? Think about all of the students there that we see years later from school shootings that happened so many years ago. They may have been in elementary school. It is burned in their minds what happened that day.
I'm still in touch with a number of parents and students who are at Columbine High School.
Yeah.
And this was a defining moment in their lives. And I think it's important for the community to come together in a lot of ways in a moment like this, and to show our support for people impacted, and our understanding that this will be a moment that has great repercussions for everybody inside the school and beyond.
Yeah.
Because of just the anxiety and how it gives you pause for what students and staff face every day as they go into school, just to learn, and parents, I know that these are thoughts that you think about, and you know that the protocols are in place, and you know what can happen, but you still don't expect that phone call or text to come through. And it came through today for every parent of a student at Appalachia High School, 1,900 students at this school.
And I can't help but think, Cheryl, we are just a few weeks into the new school year, you know? And so this is going to be something that they have to live with and navigate throughout the rest of this school year. And we just see this huge response of these family members and loved ones to just imagine there are still some parents that haven't been able to reach their child or to see them physically to know that they are okay. And when you roll up and just, like Molly said, the only thing that's equal to the amount of law enforcement and emergency personnel is the amount of cars of parents lined up trying to get to their child. And so there are some heavy pounding hearts right now. Even we are up here bringing this story. I'm keeping you guys updated on social media. We're keeping you updated on air. We are all experiencing this together, getting this information from Winder, Georgia, as it comes in. It is 12:50 right now. That call came in from Appalachia High School at 10:23 this morning. So we are well over 2 hours into this incident. And just in the last 30 minutes, we saw another stretcher being taken away from someone dealing with a medical emergency after this school was secure, because that one suspect is in custody. So even with that knowledge, there is still fear pumping through these students and these faculty members who just witnessed this.
And the waiting now for 2 hours to leave the school grounds, to get information, to be reunited, for whether you're a student or maybe a loved one or spouse, or you have a parent who teaches at the school, thinking about the entire staff today. And again, we want to reiterate, while NBC is reporting 4 injured and 2 dead, we don't know the ages of anybody involved. We know 1 gunshot patient was taken to Grady, a level 1 trauma center. No information yet on where the other 3 injured, according to NBC, are waiting to hear more from the sheriff's department. It stood out to Aisha and I both initially when the sheriff's department sent out its first official piece of information that the word was casualties, plural. And I think both of us took a deep breath when we saw that, knowing that this was going to have a wide impact in a lot of ways. Parents still walking down the road to the high school. You see this vantage point is quite a distance from the school. There's no driving in there for some parents. They're just going to get out of the car and walk to go find their loved ones. Again, a coordinated effort from the FBI, state, and local police at this point, as the governor was quick to share that information more than an hour ago, talking about state resources responding to the incident. And the governor said, all Georgians, asking all of us to pray for the safety of those in our classrooms in Barrow County and across the state. We understand that this is something every student, every parent, every teacher watches and will change the way they get up and head to school tomorrow.
And there are also just so many questions still out there, right? So we know that we have the 2 dead and the 4 injured, with one of those injured people being at Grady, but we don't know the extent of those injuries.
Right.
And so that's sort of a major question mark here in this story as well, just how severe those injuries are for the people who have been injured here during this shooting. We are well over 2 hours into this tragedy here at Appalachia High School. school, and we're still just getting this new, fresh information as it comes in. But the main priority right now, beyond the medical perspective, is reuniting all of those students, a school of 1,900, with their loved ones. And Molly Oak is on the ground along with Doug Richards as well. We're sure Doug is out there gathering information and talking to families on the ground. Just really how tough it is to get inside of there with this school being still on this lockdown here at this property. And this video that we're seeing right now, that was a little bit earlier when we saw multiple emergency vehicles speeding away from the high school. We have no idea where they were going or if there's now going to be possibly a second scene here that we're going to hear about. So as we're learning the information, you guys are learning the information too.
And a key piece of information worth reiterating is one suspect is in custody, and that would be a primary source of potential information for investigators who are now trying to piece together what happened and why, and if perhaps just that one person, that one suspect in custody was involved, or if there are others they need to be talking to. So that's a key piece of information in a couple of ways. One, that suspect is in custody and they're not looking for that person. And also that person being a source of information to piece together what happened inside Appalachia High School this morning at 10:23.
Just got a good question from someone who's joining me on my Instagram live saying, are they looking for anyone else there besides the one person that they have in custody? They have not told us that. Cheryl, check your phone. We just got a text message from Liza Lucas. We are hearing from the superintendent, Richard Woods, on this shooting here. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and get that one up.
Yep, I've got it right here, Aisha. It says, I am devastated.
The state superintendent.
This is, yes, State Superintendent Richard Woods on the shooting at Appalachia High School. I'm going to just read this live with you together here on the air. I'm devastated by the news of the tragic shooting at Appalachia High School today. My heart and prayers are with the families and loved ones of those affected and the entire Barrow County community. This is an unimaginable loss for Barrow and for our entire educational community across the state. The Georgia Department of Education is actively monitoring the situation in Barrow County and will continue to respond as additional information is available. Our school safety team is in contact with the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency and with Barrow County Schools, and our entire agency stands ready to assist in any way possible. I ask that all Georgians keep the community of Appalachia High School and first and foremost, the families of those lost in your thoughts. I know we will come together as a state to support the Barrow County community as they face this tragic loss. Again, that is from the State Superintendent Richard Woods just a moment ago about the shooting at Appalachia High School.
And we are still awaiting for new information to come in. Again, just received a very good question. Are they looking for anyone else besides the one suspect that is in custody? We have not heard any confirmation that they are. We've only been told that the one suspect is in custody. 2 people are dead, and additionally that 4 people have been injured here. So this is a very fluid situation, even more than 2 hours in, as we continue to get information on this story as it is developing. Those families showing up there to the school, trying to make contact with their students there. 1,900 students attend this school. Now, we do want to say that this has gone all the way to the White House. We just got word that President Biden has been briefed on this situation. Governor Kemp has responded saying he is dispatching however many resources are necessary, including the FBI. FBI Atlanta confirming their involvement here in this investigation already, along with Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens releasing a statement saying out of an abundance of caution, they have amped up security and police presence around APD surrounding Atlanta public schools, giving them the sense of peace that they may be looking for, knowing that this has happened to, their peers there in Winder. So we're looking at video that we got earlier from our chopper, just showing all these students gathering there on the grounds. Just, you can't even imagine how hard it is, to get all of these students back to their loved ones, just as far as they, trying to get there. The streets are blocked off. So you gotta imagine how many cars are just responding here, trying to get their kids and just lay eyes on them for the first time after getting that text or phone call, you know?
Aisha, another question that came in about were there school resource officers inside the school? And we don't know that for certain, but we can tell you that the Barrow County School District website shows at least 2 SROs are assigned to Appalachia High School. So we do know that they have SROs that are assigned to the school. I'm sure in the days and weeks ahead, we'll learn more about what support was inside the school when all of this happened at 10:23 this morning.
Yeah, we're just about 2.5 hours removed from that first call coming in there right at 10:23, Cheryl. And so when you put it into perspective, I think the number one goal right now, these are all great questions that we are getting in from viewers. It's that these things are going to take so much time, and that school has to be 100% secure. The investigation will be extremely extensive as they start to uncover and peel off the layers to this scenario. We came on air with only the fact that the school was possibly even locked down. So from 11:15 to now almost 1 p.m., we've evolved from this possible lockdown at Appalachia to we see 1 medical helicopter leaving the scene. And now we understand from NBC News 2 are dead, 4 injured. So just look how the information continues to build here as all of this comes in. So as we get it, we are bringing it to you within seconds. We have reporters literally on the side handing us these press releases and information as it comes in. So while we do know the school resource officer aspect, that's a pretty standard practice around Metro Atlanta, right? But we just can't confirm if they had one or not at the time.
And we understand that as these events happen in our community, there is such a need and want for information, but just also understand that first and foremost, there is an investigation and police have to tread very carefully to protect the investigation that moves forward. So trying to balance the sharing of information, which is really critical to the people involved and the people impacted and for the greater community who is feeling this and experiencing this right along with them, but also having to protect a certain level of information as well as they think about an investigation moving forward. Again, they have shared 1 person is in custody, and we're not certain if there are more that they are considering, but we know that 1 person will be a key for information moving forward.
According to Northeast Georgia Medical Center, their public information officer, 1 patient has been transported to their facility in Barrow, and 1 patient is en route to their facility in Gainesville. That Gainesville location is the level 1 trauma center. So we can now sort of put a place on the 4 injured. We have 1 at Grady. We have 1 patient at Barrow at their facility, and then 1 patient is en route to the facility in Gainesville, which is a level 1 trauma center. Now, again, it's 4 injured, so we can surely account for the location of the 3. But still not knowing the extent of the injuries here. That information coming in from the Northeast Georgia Medical Center public information officer. That's new information there.
But it's significant that they chose to send 2 of these patients to level 1 trauma centers, which are a great distance away. So that is a key piece of information, knowing that whatever they're dealing with, they felt the need to send them to the 2 level 1 trauma centers closest. But one is that Northeast Medical Center is still 30 miles from the high school. Grady is 40 miles from the high school. But again, if you're just joining us, we did see the medical helicopters on scene. They are the ones that would transport to those level 1 facilities so they can get the patients to the help as fast as possible.
And we do want to just let you guys know that this situation has gone all the way up to the White House, all the way up to the FBI. And so while we don't have any word on a suspect, it is important to know that we have 1 suspect in custody, but no details on who this person is, age, or anything of any of the people that have been injured here in this scenario. And so there are still so many questions out there, but we can say that the threat here appears to be over based on the body language. We see another mother there getting their child from the school. People have had to park those cars and just get out and walk. They're calling their kids, where can you meet me? Where can we go? We see a student there with his shirt over his face, not knowing what that young man has experienced, but glad to see him with a loved one there. I mean, this is just absolutely gut-wrenching and just so hard to know. I'm a mom. I'm gonna call them babies. What these babies have experienced and what they witnessed, just seeing your loved one for the first time. The grandmother that Molly spoke to, she was the grandma showing up. The son was already with the mom, but the whole village is showing up to show support to these kids and thinking about the ones who don't have anyone to come and get them either.
You read my mind.
Yeah.
That's it. When I saw that young man, walking across the field with presumably his mom, it's the first thing I thought of. We are bringing you this information as journalists, but we are bringing you this information as parents and members of this community. And I know everyone watching is feeling it today, and it does make an impact. And so we just want to acknowledge that this is difficult for the state and even people beyond the state watching and really thinking about those of you who know someone there and just feeling that for you together and thinking about these kids, these high school freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors who should be thinking about getting ready for a high school football game this weekend or taking a test. And, instead they're finding out more about what happened inside their school and the loss of people that they know and care about, and people in the hospital right now who are getting help, and we hope will have full recoveries. And then just the greater impact of experiencing this, whether you're physically harmed or not, there is a toll that it takes on everybody involved. We continue to hear more and more from our lawmakers and our legislators and our state and federal leaders. It is worth reiterating that FBI is there on the scene. They are helping coordinate. Because as you see this picture right here, you're seeing law enforcement vehicles from, a 50-mile radius. It's like all hands on deck. Everybody comes in this moment, and it is a coordinated effort to get all of that in motion in a way that is effective and protects the investigation and cares for the community moving forward. And unfortunately, a lot of those law enforcement protocols and procedures are in place because of school shootings that have happened in the years past where that wasn't the case and there was confusion in these times. And so those procedures put into place, unfortunately, you hope they never have to be used, but when they are, hopefully they are effective to make a terrible situation just a little less chaotic for everybody involved.
There was just such a eagerness and a hustle of these people as they respond here to this school. They've parked the car, they've gotten out, and they are trying to get to their children. But just think about it. There are two families here in this case that are not going to get the call from the loved one that they're waiting for. 2 people are dead here. 4 others are injured. We have accounted for the locations of at least 3 of the people who have been injured so far. 1 has been taken to Grady. 1 has been taken to Northeast Medical Center in Gainesville, the level 1 trauma center. Another one has been taken to the location in Barrow. And that sort of speaks to the level of injuries, especially for the 2 who have gone there actually to get to the level 1 trauma centers in Grady there and in Gainesville, both about an hour away from the school. We can say that we saw 2 medical helicopters that arrived there on the scene in response here to this situation. Producers, I want to see if you guys have our former law enforcement officer ready on Zoom. Is that ready? Can we confirm that? That's one area that we cannot speak to. We want to sort of get in the mind of law enforcement to say, what sort of the response here? What are they doing? We have Thaddeus Johnson right now, who is a criminology professor at Georgia State University and a former law enforcement officer out of Memphis, Tennessee. Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for being with us. What can you sort of add to what we are seeing here as it relates to how law enforcement is trained to respond to these sort of incidents? All right, looks like we're still waiting to get Mr. Johnson fully connected. It looks like he's dialing in. Their producers are going to do a mic check with him to make sure that he can indeed hear us. Mr. Johnson, can you hear me?
Absolutely, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much. I was saying, just as you're watching this picture live with us and seeing the law enforcement response from your time as a law enforcement officer in Memphis and now being a criminology professor at GSU, what can you tell us about what we're seeing here with this response?
Yes. So with the response, the one thing when you have these types of situations, it can be chaotic. To the untrained eye, it can look like a whole lot of confusion is going on. But when you have these situations, when the officers first arrive on the scene, they're not there to look out for victims or to render first aid. The top priority is to go in, stop the threat, and prevent the further loss of life or injury as soon as possible. And you usually won't see like SWAT or specialized units unless they made it to the scene first until after other officers generally already entered. You don't wait for a SWAT response. Once the threat is actually neutralized, that's when you start seeing police render aid. They may secure the scene and bring in EMS as well. One thing that's particularly funny about these situations, particularly when you're inside a school building, that can up the ante a little bit. And so generally you'll see students coming out with their hands up, and that's to show that they're not a threat. And that allows officers to also do a visual scan or frisk to see if they have any weapons, any injuries, or things of that nature. Because mind you, officers are not sure who's the culprit, who are victims once they get on scene, unless someone is engaged in shooting or has been pointed out. And so once the initial threat is neutralized, stuff is still going on. They're still investigating. You'll start seeing officers and police departments. Usually you'll see multiple agencies beyond fire and MMS. And so you'll see staging areas where they have those who were witnesses, those who were victims. They have them a certain area. They have the media in a certain area, and they also present a secure perimeter around the crime scene, for lack of better terms, to keep citizens out and also not to contaminate the scene for the follow-up investigation. So those are some of the things that you tend to see in these scenarios.
It's just been such a tough time for law enforcement in our community. We've had 2 law enforcement officers to tragically die in the line of duty here in our area just over the last 2 weeks. We had one who was shot and is recovering. And so talk about the impact here for the law enforcement officers who are responding. I'm sure many of them mothers and fathers as well. I think it's totally different when you know you're responding and children are in harm's way.
Yeah, I think one thing that we should all be mindful of, that compared to the type of shootings that we have in general society, this is a very small subset, but you're so important that it hits the heart, right? It hits a little bit different. Again, it ups the ante. And so even as officers, officers see life and death situations all day. They see people at their worst. They see injuries. They deal with a lot. They carry a whole lot. And the job itself is inherently dangerous because of all the unknowns. We also know that most of our police officers don't receive the mental health care, the physical care, and emotional care that's needed for this type of job.
Yeah.
Usually when you have these scenarios, officers tend to debrief about the situation, but not necessarily about what they're experiencing. And so it's so important that officers control those emotions when they're approaching these scenes, because your emotions can't get the best of you. You have to be tactically sound. You have to prevent yourself from having auditory exclusion, visual, tunnel vision, because lives are at stake, and not only of the kids and the students and the staff and faculty, but also your fellow officers. You want to make sure that everyone gets out safely. So law enforcement can be a heavy job, and these types of situations are things that officers will carry them probably for the rest of their lives.
Mr. Thaddeus Johnson, thank you so much for joining us and just sort of allowing us to tap into the mind of law enforcement here in this scenario. We will check back in with you soon. Now let's get to a press conference happening now from authorities.
Office. We're standing on the campus of Appalachia High School here at Barrow County Schools. First and foremost, I want to lift up our community I want to give our sympathies to our community, our school system, our kids, our parents that had to witness this today. Obviously, what you see behind us is an evil thing today. At about 9:30 this morning, we received the first call that there was an active shooter on this campus. We're not releasing any information as far as injuries, but we have multiple injuries. This is a very, very fluid investigation. It's very early. And I have asked the assistance of the GBI and the agencies here behind me today, and there are multiple agencies that responded this morning to help us and help the sheriff's office. We do have a suspect in custody, and we are asking for your patience as the media to please let us get the facts that we need to make sure we get this right. Again, I've asked the GBI to help us, the sheriff's office, to help us along with this. I know this is not what you want to hear, but I'm not going to answer questions after this is over with. But I wanted to give you the respect and our community respect to let them know what was going on initially. We're in the process of reunifying our students with their parents. Obviously, that's chaotic, but we want to be respectful of them and their privacy as well. I want to thank the state, the federal agencies, the local agencies that showed up today. As you can see, the multiple EMS and fire from other agencies that responded today. Again, I ask that you lift up Barrow County Schools, lift up Appalachia, lift up our agencies. This is going to take multiple days for us to get answers as to what happened and why this happened. But I wanted to give you a statement. It is our hope, in conjunction with these people behind us, that we can give you another statement around 4 o'clock, because I know you have to go back on the air. That is my hope. But I wanted to be fluid with you all, understanding that it's fluid as well with this investigation. I appreciate you being patient with us. Again, it's very active and is ever developing. Every minute it's developing on what we're finding. So we're going to have releases from other schools. Again, we ask that you be patient with us. Please be patient with us. And hopefully I can give you more information or more better information as you will this afternoon. Thank you all for coming out here. We'll be back shortly, okay?
Sheriff, it's been widely reported that people are dead. Is that true?
I'm not releasing any information. We have multiple injuries.
Can you say if the person in custody is an adult or a juvenile?
I'm not releasing any information. Guys, I'm not going to answer any more questions this time, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there you have it. A press conference there from the Barrow County Sheriff giving us very limited information, just really stretching that this is a fluid situation and that this is very active and ongoing. He only reported that there were an active shooter call that came in around 9:30 this morning. Now, the banner that you see on your screen with the 2 dead and 4 injured, that is coming from NBC News. They will not even answer questions about the number of people, but he did confirm that there is 1 suspect in custody. At the end, you heard 11 Alive's Doug Richards go ahead and try to get that question to see if the person
address, hopefully answer more questions for you, okay? Or be in a position to give you more answers. We'll just have to see how things
We
go.
just realized this was telling us how many people, what